It was in early January that all of a sudden, it had been kept secret, all of a sudden in the Daily World, it was being reported, and then it got reported in the Times and other papers.
That the international brigades had been formed, and then in the party, you know, they were recruiting. So
I went up to on 23rd Street. There was a party headquarters, and I said, I'd like to go to Spain.
Being engaged in so many activities against fascism, here was a chance to personally make a contribution that was unusual and different.
Whatever demonstrations there were against Hitler, against fascism, Mussolini, the Abyssinian, Ethiopian thing, I participated in. When the war in Spain broke out, a friend of mine, Jerry Cook, who later went to Spain too, and I wrote to the Spanish ambassador in Washington offering our services.
Of course, I was an anti-fascist. But what drove me was, can I put my body where my mouth has been all these years in talking about fighting fascism? Was I up to it? And I wasn't sure.
They told me they were only accepting people who had some knowledge of arms because there was no training process and so on and so forth. And since I didn't have any, I was not a member, had not been in the National Guard, had not been in the Army or Navy, was not a hunter, had never held a gun in my hands. They said, well, we note that you say you are a truck driver. We may need truck drivers later, and if we do, we'll call you. And so I went home. I had a big discussion with my father.
We got a nice letter back thanking us and saying that they felt they could take care of it, you know.
So they said, how old are you? And I said, I'm going to be 20. So you can't go, you're too young, we won't accept you.
He saw how determined I was, and rather than just buck me, which is what probably he wanted to do, tell me that I shouldn't go, he said he thought that since Spain was a part of Europe and they were closer, that this was a problem for the Europeans and not for the Americans.
I didn't tell them. They were used to my going out west, you know, hitchhiking around.
Subsequently, Jack Freeman went up there, and he was a little younger than I was. And he disappears from the neighborhood, and I find out that he's in Spain. So I went back to this guy, and I said, what the hell's going on? You let him, not me. He says, okay, go see a doctor. Give you a physical, and if you're all right, we'll send you.
They put me through a physical test, and when I passed that, they told me to be quiet about going.
And if I recall right, I think I told my mother I was going to go to Milwaukee and visit my uncle who lived there.
This got a little scary for me because I don't see out of my right eye. A boyhood accident, maybe when I was 4 years old, I never saw. So go fire a rifle.
There was some shaving material and toothpaste and so on, some underwear.
A razor, a toothbrush, an extra pair of socks.
No uniform.
I think I had a change of pants and maybe 3 shirts.
Some good woolen socks and so on. And I hid it under my bed.
And I had $20. And I gave 10 of it to Butch Goldstein.
In the morning I was going to work, I took my stuff, I'm halfway down the stairs and I realized I didn't have my toothbrush. So I went back up, got my toothbrush broken in half and put it in my pocket. And when I came home, that was the only thing that I had brought across from the United States that I came back with, was that half a toothbrush.
My parents, of course, couldn't stop me, they wouldn't dare because they knew it was the right thing for me.
And I made my way downtown. We were sailing on a ship from the docks in the Hudson. I think it was the Paris. And I called my father, and he answered the phone in the laundry. And I told him, Pop, they've accepted me as a truck driver, and I'm going. There's no way you can stop me. I'm taking a train, and we're going to go to a port in the south, and that's where I'm going from. So he says, wait a minute. And he called my mother.
You know, what mother would approve of her son going into an army?
My mother was she was stoic about it. And she gave me a proletarian handshake as I went aboard ship.
And she yelled and she screamed. And then I said, goodbye, Mom, and I took off. When I came home, my mother told me, when he hung up the phone, he put his head on his shoulders and he cried. And it was the first time in her life and the last time in her life that she ever saw him cry.
I think Ruthie went to the dock, and I spotted her from the ship. You know, I was at the railing, and we waved.
And my father was a little teary-eyed, and he was an emotional kind of guy, and I could see that he did some crying about it.
And so that I went across at that point.